A safe voyage, just one of hundreds completed every year by tankers in Texaco's U.S. fleet. Now you are about to embark on one of these safe voyages as a member of the ship's crew. Chances are that you have been to sea before, perhaps many times, but maybe never on a tanker. If you have not been out on a tanker before, this program will acquaint you with some of the characteristics of this vessel and the cargoes she may carry. If you have, watch carefully for new equipment and changes in procedures. And remember, even old salts can benefit from a review every now and then. But you must keep in mind that it just isn't possible to show you everything about tankers in one short program. So if you have any questions, at any time, ask our officers, and then listen closely to their instructions. There are a number of potential hazards aboard tank vessels, and it is very important that you be thoroughly familiar with them, thereby ensuring your own safety as well as that of your vessel and fellow shipmates. To begin with, all of our cargoes are made up of petroleum and its products, such as crude oil, gasoline, kerosene, jet fuel, lube oil, and diesel oils. All of these products are flammable, which means that everyone must be extremely careful when working around them. Under certain conditions, the vapors from many of these products may burn or explode. So to avoid looking like this or worse, do not be careless with anything that could create sparks or a flame. As you might expect, smoking in unauthorized areas may be one of the biggest fire hazards aboard your vessel. Therefore, smoking is limited to crew quarters, the galley and mess deck, and certain other approved areas like the rec room. Normally, you will find signs telling you where the smoking area ends. There is no smoking on deck, in the pump room, or in any of the main deck work areas, such as the forecastle and shelter deck. But if you are in doubt as to whether an area is safe for smoking, don't. Check the ship's plan to find out for sure. And remember, when you are leaving a smoking area, put your cigarette in the ashtray on the bulkhead and make sure that it is out. Here's another important point. Lighters are not allowed aboard any of our ships, even if you don't use them. We will furnish you with all of the safety matches you need, free of charge. And of course, follow good smoking habits even while you are in approved areas. Smoking in bed on board a tanker can kill you just as quickly as it could at home. Don't take chances. The potential for fire or explosion must be taken seriously. Therefore, we will immediately discharge anyone who smokes, has an open light or fire, or carries matches other than safety matches into no smoking areas. Electrical equipment and lighting are also potential sources of fire. Make sure that anything you bring aboard, such as a radio or television, is properly maintained and that the cord is in good condition. For example, this cord and plug is in very poor condition and is not acceptable. Lamps or lights must always have a globe or protective cover, like these. Do not remove them. They are there for a purpose, your safety. Another dangerous practice to be avoided is the hanging of clothes, towels, or other flammable items near light fixtures. If they were to ignite while you were away from your quarters, the fire could easily spread throughout a large area before it was discovered. But even when everyone is very careful, there is still the remote possibility of a fire occurring aboard one of our vessels. Therefore, your ship is equipped with numerous pieces of firefighting equipment located throughout the ship. You will be shown the safest and most effective way to use this equipment during shipboard drills. And most importantly, always remember to check the station bill after you come aboard. It points out your fire station, the lifeboat to which you are assigned, and other special duties in emergency situations. There will also be a card in your room outlining your specific duties. Now let's look at another potential hazard you could run into when working around petroleum products. Some shipboard spaces can contain air that has too little oxygen in it to support life. This means that these spaces cannot be entered unless proper protective measures have been taken. Usually this happens in spaces which have been closed for quite a while, such as peak tanks, where oxidation or rusting has used up all or most of the oxygen, or in cargo tanks where the cargo vapors have displaced the air. To check the air, we use a gas oxygen analyzer to test for oxygen and also to see if the atmosphere contains any gas in the concentration necessary to become explosive. If there is any danger whatsoever, you will be furnished a self-contained breathing apparatus, commonly called an SCBA. However, you will only be issued this equipment after you have received instructions on how to use it properly aboard your vessel. Also, as extra insurance, we will have another man standing by to help you if anything should go wrong. This standby will be there when you enter any enclosed space, even if the oxygen content tests okay. It probably seems obvious that you should not enter any cargo tank or other enclosed space without the knowledge and permission of the officer who is responsible, but it still happens even to experienced people when they are careless. Think about it for a moment. If you do enter an enclosed space alone and something happens to you, no one will know about it and you could lose your life before being found. Another potential danger comes from breathing some of the vapors themselves, even though there may be plenty of oxygen in the air. This danger exists because some product vapors have a toxic effect on people. Instead of suffocating you, they could endanger your health, either after a very short exposure or following exposure for a longer period of time. If the cargo your vessel is carrying could expose you to this kind of harm, the officer supervising the cargo operation will tell you what kind of hazard it is and provide you with the proper protection. For example, these dual cartridge respirators are used to protect the wearer when benzene is being handled. Again, as with the SCBA, you will be shown the proper way to wear and maintain any protective equipment before you are required to wear it. However, it is important to note that not all vapors are dangerous in all concentrations. Therefore, there will probably not be a need for this type of protection with most cargoes your vessel will handle. There is no need for you to be concerned since our experts know exactly what is needed as well as when and where to protect you from anything that could be hazardous to your health. A third type of cargo hazard has to do with actually getting the liquid on your skin or in your eyes. Some products can cause skin rashes or eye irritation. Therefore, if you do get any liquid on you, it is very important that you thoroughly wash it off your skin or flush it out of your eyes as soon as possible. And if your clothing was saturated with product, make sure you wash it before wearing it again. However, do not put clothes soaked with a flammable liquid into a washing machine. They would be a fire hazard. Those are the potential dangers you could encounter when working with some of our cargoes, along with a brief look at the safety equipment we provide for your continued safety. Now let's take a moment to look at a related area that could result in accidents if you are not careful. Naturally, there are a variety of other chemicals which are carried aboard your ship for her operating needs. Epoxies, strippers, and solvents in the paint locker, boiler chemicals in the engine room, chemicals used as rust removers, and chlorine for the marine sanitation devices, just to name a few. Many of these chemicals can be dangerous if not handled properly. So always read the warning labels carefully and follow the precautions outlined by the manufacturer. Since they have conducted extensive testing and know what can happen, always follow their instructions. Again, we will furnish you with the proper protective equipment, including clothing, such as that shown here, if it's necessary. But if a potentially harmful substance still manages to reach your skin, we are installing safety showers like this one aboard our vessels. Their operation is simple, as you can see for yourself. Or if some liquid cargo should splash into your eyes, an eye wash device is being included with the safety shower. Just turn it on, and 2 jets of water will spray into your eyes, washing them out. Here's another very important point about chemical containers aboard our ships. Never reuse a container after it is empty. If you do, you risk seriously injuring fellow crewmen who do not know what you've done. Next, let's look at what may result in more shipboard injuries than any other hazard: slips, trips, and falls. This does not mean that our vessels are any more dangerous than others, just that too many crewmen think they can shortcut the rules and only end up hurting themselves. If this is your first time aboard a tanker, you may already have noticed that your vessel has a number of potential tripping hazards, such as cargo piping and other deck lines for steam, air, and water, piping and machinery in the engine spaces, mooring lines and wires when you are in port, joints in the deck, and even the raised coaming at each watertight door can be a tripping hazard. So watch your footing at all times. Step up over coamings, joints, and equipment, and use the crossovers to get over the lines on deck. Do not walk the cargo lines like this. More people hurt themselves by breaking this rule than any other. Take the few extra seconds to use the crossover. It's worth it. If you've been to sea at all before, you know that the weather decks can become very wet and slippery. Spray and heavy seas can make your footing treacherous. This is especially true on tankers when we have full cargo tanks and a low freeboard. And if it's wintertime, the decks can ice over, turning them into instant skating rinks. For this reason, we require you to notify the officer on watch before going out on deck during bad weather or at night. In fact, if conditions are bad enough, he may not let you go out on the weather decks. After all, if you fell over the side at night or during bad weather and nobody knew that you were out on deck, it could be the next morning or your next watch before anyone would realize that you were missing. On the other hand, if conditions are bad and it is necessary for you to go out on deck, we will have you put on a life vest and possibly even a lifeline for your protection. Another very common slipping and tripping hazard aboard ship, as you may already know, occurs when someone has spilled or dropped something and is too busy or lazy to clean or pick it up. So if you are the spiller or dropper, clean or pick it up right away. Don't let your sloppiness injure one of your shipmates. Everybody's heard the old saying, one hand for yourself and one for the ship. This is especially true today when going up or down ladders and the gangway. Use the handrails. That's why they are there. And one other point about the gangway. Don't overload it. It's designed to handle a set weight. Therefore, we allow only 3 people on it at a time. Here's another safety tip. As you may have noticed, there are a number of low areas around the ship where you can get a headache if you aren't watching where you're going. The low piping under the catwalk is one of these areas. Always keep your eyes open and save yourself some lumps. We provide bump hats for your use, but there are some instances in which you must wear a hard hat for your own protection. A good example is when you must work inside one of the cargo tanks, as these men are about to do. Temperature extremes can also be a problem. An experienced seaman knows that cold weather at sea can be much worse than on land, and he prepares for it, with special attention to his head, hands, and feet. Be sure to wear the extra clothing that you need. And if it's summer or you're sailing in the tropics, you must also take precautions, this time against heat prostration, heat exhaustion, and sunburn. Remember, though, that sandals are never part of a working or topside uniform, and the clothing you wear should always fit the job. If you have any questions about the need for safety equipment to protect you while on the job, ask your ship's officers. They will either provide it or explain why it's not necessary. However, in some cases, personal protection is always needed. For example, goggles should be used for grinding or chipping. Earplugs must be worn in noisy areas. Respiratory protection for painting, chipping, and sanding, along with a variety of other types of gear. Use the equipment properly. Remember that it will only protect you if it is worn and used in the right manner. The galley and mess decks can also be potential sources of injury, with hot stoves and liquids, sharp utensils, and decks made slippery by spilled liquids. Also, everyone should handle their dishes carefully when putting them into the sink after a late-night snack. If they break, the next guy that reaches into the water could cut himself badly. As you can see, we take safety seriously, and we expect everyone aboard our ships to treat it just as seriously as we do. However, in some areas, you simply must take care of yourself. For example, when lifting, keep your back straight and use your legs to lift. Using this method will help to prevent strained muscles or worse. But if the load is too big or heavy, get help. Hurting yourself does no one any good. While we hope that it is never necessary, we will discharge anyone who willfully or negligently violates our safety rules or fails to report any accident or personal injury whenever possible. The same holds true for any negligent or willful acts which result in damage or loss of our property or equipment, including the unauthorized use of company property or equipment. Of course, we also expect everyone to be fully alert when on our vessels, which means that sleeping while on duty is a discharge offense. And the introduction, possession, or use of intoxicating liquors, narcotics, or habit-forming drugs while on board is strictly prohibited. In fact, no one should even attempt to go on watch while under the influence. We will not take a chance with the lives of an entire crew because one individual is not even concerned with his own safety. Finally, we don't want any crewman reporting aboard who has an infectious disease which could endanger the health of his fellow crew members. This is especially true in the steward's department, where a virus can be spread very quickly throughout the ship. Don't take chances. Remember, all it takes is one careless mistake. If you don't know, ask. If you're not sure, don't do it until you are. That's a brief look at the potential hazards you may encounter while aboard our vessel, as well as the precautions we have taken and you should take to ensure your safety. Remember, keep a weather eye out for safety.